Hi everyone, Sarah here. I might be your instructor for BPC110, or you might be a student in another section of the course. Hi and welcome to the Access Foundations video practice. So in this video I will go through completing the Access Foundations assignment. I already have downloaded the instruction file and the 2 Excel files. So in step 1 you're supposed to download these 2 Excel files, and you can find that in Canvas. And then step 2 says Start Access, which I already have open here on the left. Now, before I go any further, please make note that it's important that you have reviewed the course document on database fundamentals, the theory behind databases, so that you are familiar with the terms and things that I'll be talking about. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and stop this video and go back and review that information first, just so it doesn't seem so foreign. Because databases are databases are very different than the other programs we've learned, and most students have not used this program. Most students are familiar with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, but they've never used Access, which is awesome. We love teaching you guys from the beginning. Okay, so one of the things that you should have picked up from in the course document is that databases are very different. Access works very different than the other programs. You don't typically just open a database file and start working in it, where, in Word we can open a document, start typing, and then we can save it, or Excel, I can open it up, do a few calculations, then I can save it. But when you create a database from scratch, which is what we're doing here, you have to do a few things that are different. So the step 3, Start Access, step 3 says choose blank database. Make sure you only click one time. So what you want to do is you want to click this button up here, blank database, one time. Don't double click it, because if you double click it, what happens is it creates a database and it takes you to the next screen and it saves it for you in a location that you might not be familiar with. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are going to choose the location that you're going to save it. So right now, by default, if I just were to click create, or if I were to double click, what would have happened was this database would be saved as database 1, and it would be saved to this path right here on my hard drive in the documents subfolder. It might look the same for you. Your path's going to look a little bit different because everybody's computer is different. But we don't want to do that. We actually want to give the database a name. In step 4, I'm telling you what I want you to call it. So what you have to do when you start a database from scratch for the first time is you want to go ahead and click this Browse button, and you want to save it to a location on your computer. So for purposes of this video, I'm just going to go ahead and save it in my Downloads folder, but I'm sure you have a folder on your computer already designated for Access Homework. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Downloads, and then I'm going to click one time on the file name. I'm going to press backspace, not delete, and I'm going to retype the name, Access Foundations Practice, and my name. Now I don't need to type the file extension .accdb because Access will do that for me, and I can click OK. All right, and you can see the path has changed to the Downloads folder, and I have a name. Okay, let me just point out right now, if you like to work in the cloud, as I do, I like to save all my stuff to a cloud location. When you're working in the database, you don't want to do that. You actually want to save your files to a hard drive or a thumb drive, because that will be a stable connection. You don't want to save your database and have it open across a network connection. So if you were saving something to the cloud, you'd be using your Wi-Fi or network access, and that can cause disruption. So again, something that's different, right? We can just open up a file and save it, an Excel or Word document, save it wherever, but with Access it's a little bit different. So make sure that you're choosing a location on your hard drive, and then when you're done and you've closed all your files, you can always make a copy of it and put it in your cloud, and then when you want to work on it later, you would pull it back down to your hard drive, make a copy of it on your hard drive, and open it there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Create, and what happens is Access opens up, and we're looking at the Access environment. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about this a little bit before I go on to the next step, but step 5 does tell you the database will open with one blank table. And so from the review of the notes from the previous lesson, you know that there are 4 different objects that you can have in a database: tables, queries, forms, and reports. And you will create all of them in this assignment. And you learn that tables are the most important because they are the ones that hold all the data. Without a table, you can't have a database, right? Those are the ones that are most important. And when the table opens up, you know that the table looks like a grid. It actually kind of looks a little bit like Excel. I have all these little boxes. And I have columns, which are called fields, and I have rows, which are called records. I can't select the rows right now because I don't have any data inside of it, okay? And so remember, each field is a unique piece of information, like a first name, a last name, a phone number, social security, and a record are all those pieces of information together. My first name, Sarah, my last name, Beakley-Mercill, my address, 1234 Anywhere Place. That's not really my address, right? My phone number, 555-11122, not really my phone number, right? And so each those individual pieces of information all strung together is one record. Okay, we also learned, so step 6 is saying, so let's move on. Step 6 says rename the ID field to student ID and change the data type to short text. And I'm actually telling you how to find that. Okay, and so the name of the field right up here, the default name ID, you always get one field called ID, and that will be the primary key unless we designate something else. So remember, every table has to have one unique identifier, one unique field, which is called the primary key. And so I'm going to go ahead and double click the field name ID, and I'm going to just type over what I want it to be called, which is student ID, and then I can press enter. Now I also need to change the data type. I haven't done that yet. I know I haven't because it says new here, and by default, if you don't change the data type of that primary key from a default table, Access will make that data type a auto number. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the field to select the field, and you can see up here I have a table tool fields ribbon, and that's where I'm going to go ahead and grab the change the data type where it says formatting, where it says auto number. I'm going to change that to short text. Okay, before I go any further, let me talk about the ribbons up here. When I opened up Access and you had that one table, you'll notice that we do have some ribbons, but we have a lot fewer than we do in the other programs we've already learned. If you click on Home, you can say, oh, if you look over here to the right, oh, okay, I know what B and I do, and I know what the A and the paint bucket are, and font faces and font sizes. Okay, I get all that. I understand. I know what those are. I know how to use those, right? And then if we came along to the Create ribbon, this is actually where you're going to create each one of the main objects, a table, a query, a form, and a report. And remember, you can have more than one object type in a database. In fact, most databases have many of these objects in it. External data, we're going to use that later on. Those Excel files you downloaded, that has information in it that we're going to use to import into the database so that you don't have to do a bunch of typing, and that's where we're going to find that here under external data. And then database tools, this is where we're actually going to make relationships. Remember, a database is a lot of little pieces of information that are all related together. And so we're going to learn how to do that in a later lesson. And then depending on what object I'm working on, so in this case a table, I actually get additional ribbons. So in this case I do have 2 ribbons associated with the table where I can manipulate the fields and then the table itself. And so on this fields ribbon in the formatting pane, that is where I found all of those data types. There are other ways to change the data types, which we'll get to later on in this assignment, but this is an easy way. So this field, student ID, has a data type of short text. You can see where it said new went away, so I do know that I changed it, okay? Field names always go in this gray area up here, not in the white area. The white area below, that's where you're going to type the record information in, okay? All right, so at this point now we haven't saved our table, right? It has this weird, this just generic name table 1. This might be weird for some of you. You might be like, I haven't done a Control S yet. That is because Access works differently. And I'm gonna demonstrate that here in a minute. All right, so we're going to go ahead and create the other fields for this table, and it's just going to hold information about students. So what you're going to do is where it says click to add, I can just click to add, and the next one is going to be last name with a data type of short text. You can see that right over here. So I'm going to choose short text. You'll see it gives it a default name of field 1. I'm going to type over it, type last name. And it's super important that you spell the field names correctly and that they are capitalized exactly as they are given to you in the instructions. Spelling is super important. It is important that things match. Okay, so I press enter. That sets that field, and it gives me the option to do the next one, which is first name. And now you can see right here in this list of data types, the T is underlined. That's a keyboard shortcut. If I actually press the letter T on my keyboard, it chooses short text for me, and then I can type the name of the field first name. Okay, next one, pressing the letter T for short text is going to be middle initial. Okay, the next one is state. I'm going to do text. Now, I'm making a spelling error on purpose. There really aren't 5 letter E's at the end of the word state. But let's say I didn't notice that, okay? If you are one of my students, you know I like to do this. I like to make mistakes on purpose. Because I'm going to come back and show you what happens when you don't type things correctly, okay? Moving along, let's say I didn't notice I made a spelling error. Next one is faculty advisor short text. Faculty advisor ID. A lot of students forget to type the ID in this one, so make sure you're typing things incorrectly. The next one is amount owed. Now here you can see it's a data type of currency, but let's say I'm not paying attention and I choose short text because that's what I've been choosing all along. I'm going to show you how to fix it. Amount owed, and then the last one is admission date, which is a date time. Okay, so I choose date time, admission date. Right, press enter. Now you'll be like, now at this point, usually students are like, Sarah, how do I change the data type for amount owed? Oh, that's super easy. Just come on over to the amount owed field. I'm going to select, I'm going to hover over it with my black arrow, left click one time, it selects it. And then right up here in the fields pane where it says short text, I can change that to currency. Okay, and what that does is it pre-formats that field with a money style. Okay. So here's a picture at the bottom of what your table should look like, and it's still called Table 1. Moving to the next page. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add data into the database. We're actually going to type the information, the actual record. So I can go ahead and click right here in the first record into that white area. My cursor's blinking, and I'm going to just type the information I see right over here. I'm going to type 2 records in. And once I start typing, you'll see this little pencil appear right here to the record. That means you're editing the database. Now I can press tab, I can press enter, I can press the right arrow key. Any one of those will take me to the next field. And what happens is when I move from the student ID to the last name, the data, the information, the 123765, that information was automatically saved to the database. That's what I mean when things are automatically saved to the database. You don't have to tell the database to save the data. Access will do it for you. We do save things. We save names of objects. When we change this name, table 1, that's something we're going to change the name of it. We save that. If I were to change how this information looks just to you, if I wanted to change the font size or the color, formatting changes, those are things you save. But you don't actually save the data. That gets done for you. All right, moving along. Brooks, James. And now at this point, students will say to me, what happens if I type an error in the record? Well, if you're working on a grader project, you'll get marked off because you didn't type it in correctly, because they want you to type it in correctly. Out there in the world where we have databases, well, if you type somebody's name wrong, they're not happy with that. My name is Sarah. But I don't spell it with an H. But if somebody types in my name with an H at the end, sometimes it annoys me. Not always, I'm used to it, but some people aren't as okay with that kind of stuff. So, and you definitely want to type a social security number correctly or a phone number. So it's about accuracy. One of the things you want to remember in this section, and in all of them really, it's not about speed right now because you're learning. You're at the beginning of this stuff. It's about accuracy. So it's important to go slow, follow things step by step, and if you do that, then you're going to have a better result in the end. Okay, statee, we know that that's a spelling error, but I'm going to leave it there. Ignore that. I know it's spelled wrong, but I'm going to show you what happens when you don't spell things correctly. Okay, I can just type in the amount of money. I don't have to type any formatting. When I press enter, you'll see it's automatically formatted with $1 because that data type was currency, and then the date, I can do it with the slashes. I press enter. When I hit the end of the last field, it takes me to record number 2, and so I can start typing in the next piece of information. And so what this is called is data entry, right? So I'm entering information into the database. It's very exciting. I think it pays minimum wage. So if it's something you can do from home, which, you know, depending on when you're watching this video, if you're watching it in March of 2020, that is something a lot of people are doing right now, working from home. All right, $200 and 3/1/12. Okay, press enter, done. I've entered 2 records. At this point, I want to change the name of the table to something better than table 1. That's kind of a non-descriptive name, and so it doesn't really tell us what's happening. And I know this is information about students, so I want to give it a better name. So I can just go File, Save, and what's happening is it's going to ask me to save the name of this table. I don't want to call it Table 1. I want to call it Student Table. Okay, right? And you'll see it change the name over there. All right, so your database should look something like this. There's a picture of it. That was step 11. Next, you will append records to this table. Appending means adding to the table, but you can only do this with the table closed. So close the table if necessary. So when we put information in the database, it happens in one of 2 ways. We can either append, which is what we're going to do right now, or we can import, which is what we're going to do in a minute, right? So appending means adding to. I already have a table. It has 2 records in it. I want to add a bunch more records. I don't want to have to type the information. And I want to add information from that Excel file. Now, you don't have to have the file open, but I want to show you what that file looks like. I'm just going to go ahead and open it just so you guys can see. Here's that Excel file, right? Now look at it. There's a bunch of information in here. This is what I want to point out. Notice how the first row, right? Those are all the same exact field names. Now you can see state is spelled correctly here, not spelled correctly in my database. When I try to append this Excel file inside Access, I am going to get an error because it won't recognize it. This is a very common error that students make, and so that's why I'm doing it, because I want you to see what happens. But I'm going to go ahead and close this Excel file. Here's the other thing. You can't append it while it's open. It actually has to be closed. And so to close this object, to close this table, I can come right here to this X in this tab and I can click it and that'll close the object, or I can right click on the tab and choose close. You have your choice. I'm just going to go ahead and click the X. I still have the table here. It's still in my database, but I don't see it in this object window. All right. Go back to Access and click External Tab Data, okay? And we're going to click the new data source from File. So this is how I'm going to go grab that Excel file. So I click the Excel. And then I have some choices. So the first thing I want to do is I need to go find where I downloaded that Excel file. So I'm going to go and click Browse. I got to go grab that Excel file, and I know it's in my downloads. So I'm just going to go to my downloads. And there's the file. I double click it. Okay, so there is that file. And then you have a choice. You can choose import or append. We don't ever choose the third option in this class. I want to do an append, which means add to, and since I only have one table, that's what appears in this list right here. I click OK. And the next screen that comes up, it's just showing you, hey, this is the data that you're about to append. It's just showing you what that Excel file looks like, and it's showing you the first row or all those field names, and then every row after it is a record. I'm going to click Next. It's saying, hey, do you want to import this to this table? Yes, I do. We don't check this box. I click Finish, and one of 2 things happens. Either you got a screen that says you imported the steps, or you got an error message. Now, at this point, to everybody listening, no matter what error message you get, you need to read it, because it's not really that cryptic. It's actually trying to tell you what's wrong. In this case, it's saying field state doesn't exist in the destination table student table. Well, that makes sense because I didn't spell it S-T-A-T-E. I spelled it with 5 E's. So Access can't find this field, right? Because I didn't spell it correctly. So if you get this error, you want to make sure you see what field it's telling you is wrong. I'm going to click OK. This is an error. It's saying, hey, I couldn't import the file. So you click OK again. I have to get out of this process. I click Cancel. Okay, I need to go back into my table and fix the error. So I'm going to double click this object, student table, just double click it, it opens it up. Oh, look, there's state. I didn't spell it correctly. I can double click the field name, right? Retype it, press enter, close my table. Take note, I never saved anything right there. Everything got saved automatically for me, okay? Now I'm going to go through those steps again. I'm going to go through the appending steps again. New data source, from file, Excel. I have to go find the file again. I click browse. Now because this was the folder I was in last time, that's what opens up on a Windows machine. So I'm going to go ahead and pick student data. I'm going to pick append, okay. Looking at this screen looks good, click next. This screen looks good, click finish. And when you do it correctly, you get the save import step screen. You get this yellow bar and that, yay, I did it right. We don't ever click this button. We don't save the import steps. Just click close. And then what you're going to do, and these steps explain over here on the right what that error was. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to open the student table to verify the information was appended. So if I double click this, well, look at that. I have a whole bunch more records, right? It was so much easier to get that information into the database by using an Excel file that already had it in it. I didn't have to type all that information into it. And so a few things to point out. We want to see, so I always ask my students, you know, how many records are in this table? So I could cut 1, 2, 3, 4. I could start counting them if I wanted to, but that's not really efficient. If you look down here at the bottom, you have this record navigation pane. And so I have 25 records. In fact, I'm on record number 4 of 25. If I click this arrow to the right, that goes through each record row by row. If I click it to the left, it's going back. If I click the arrow to the left with a line, that goes to the first record. Arrow with the line last record. If I wanted to add another record to the database, I could click this arrow with a star. We're going to do that later in another object, but that lets me add another record. If I come down here to the record navigation pane and I type a 6 and I press enter, that'll take me to record 6, right? So we only have 25 here. It's kind of easy to navigate, but databases can have thousands of records, right? So that might be an easy way to navigate the information. Okay, so we are on step 17. So we have this table object, and what you want to know is that every object in the database has more than one view. So in this case, the table object has the front side of it, and then the back side of it, which we call design view. So we have in this case, the front side is called data sheet view and the back is called design view. Okay. In the data sheet view, this is where I see the information, they see the actual data. But when I look at the back side of this object, the design of it, I don't actually see the data. I'm going to see the structure of my table, or in this case, all of the fields and specific information about the fields. So to switch between views, you want to go to the home ribbon, okay, and there's a view button up here. If you click it, you'll see there are those two views I was talking about, data sheet view and design view, right? So you can go ahead and click on design view, and that switches, you're looking at what I call the back of the table, right? You don't see any data. I don't see James, I don't see Faye Cook, I don't see any of that information, but I do see student ID, last name, first name. I see the names of the fields. And every time I click on a field, you can see down here, there's this area called field properties, right? Each field, I can change all kinds of things about it. All right, so what do I want to do? So it's saying in step 18, it says select the middle initial field and delete it. Okay, so I actually want to get rid of a field. All right, I can right click and choose delete or choose delete from the design ribbon. You will get a warning dialog box. So to delete this field, what I can do is I can place my cursor to the left edge in that gray box, and I can left click one time, and that selects the field. Okay, and then right up here on the table tools design ribbon, you can see I can choose delete rows, right? I can click that button, and then Access is going to say, hey, you're getting ready to delete this, and when it goes away forever. So remember, in the previous lesson, we learned that one of the things about a database is when you delete information from the database, it is usually gone forever and you can't recover it. So you're going to get a lot of dialog boxes that Access is saying, are you sure? Are you really, really sure? Yes, we are sure. We want to delete that. Say yes. Right? So it got rid of middle initial and all of the letters that were typed in to that field. All right, in the field properties, so we're in step 19. In the field properties, bottom of the window, set the field size of the state field to 2 and the field size of the student ID field to 6. So your cursor you should already be on the state field is selected. Field size down here at the bottom is 255. We're changing that to 2. What that means is that by default it's set to 255. That means I can type 255 characters, letters, numbers, spaces, whatnot, into that field. Well, I only want to let people type in 2. Right? Because I'm just using the 2-letter extension for the state. And for the student ID, I want to change that field size to 6. I don't want somebody to type in any more than that. All right, we're going to switch back to datasheet view, and when we do that, so I'm clicking that view button in the upper left, it's saying, hey, you need to save this. This is something we need to save. We changed some structural pieces about it, right? We changed those field widths. That's ultimately what we're saving. And so we say yes. Then you get another message that says, hey, because you changed those field sizes to a 2 and a 6, if there was anything in those fields that were more than 2 or 6 characters, they will be gone. And that's what this error message is saying, right? If you typed in Florida instead of FL, all that would be left would be the FL, right? If we change that field size. So that's what this error is saying, or excuse me, that's what this message box is saying. So we say yes. We go back. Okay, you can see that middle initial field is gone. And if I come in here, right, and I want to type in a different state, maybe Florida, right? I'm trying to press a button. I'm trying to press the O, right? It won't let me because I restricted that field size to 2. That's what's happening there. Okay. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Sometimes I skip steps. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close this table. We are on step 21, close the student table. I'm going to click X, right? So I've created one object in my database. Step 22. You will create a second table, but this time you will import the data from the second Excel file. So to do this, I don't have to have anything open. I just go to External Data, New Data Source, From File, Excel, the same way I went before if I was appending. Okay, but this time we're going to choose import. We're going to leave the defaulted import. I'm going to go find that file. This time we're going to import information about faculty. Okay, now you're going to have more screens in this step, right? This is a lot easier to do than the append because you don't have to worry about spelling errors. So I'm going to click OK. And then you want to make sure, so again, here's that Excel file. You want to make sure that you put a check mark here that says first row contains column headings. If you don't do that, then when you import the information into your database, you won't get the fields. You'll get generic names that say field 1, field 2, field 3. Click next. In this screen, it's saying, it's just showing you information about the database. We skip this screen, so we say next. This screen, the third one, is actually saying pick a primary key. Now if I don't pick one, Access is going to add a field for me. I don't want that, so I'm going to say choose my own primary key, and it's going to pick faculty ID, or else you need to pick it from the drop-down list, right? That's what we intend to be the primary key. I click next. On the last screen, we're going to say what is the name of this object? Faculty table. I click finish. Yay, I got the save imports. We do not click this box. We click close. And there we go, we have the faculty table. Double click it, open it up, and there you go. How many records do I have? I have 30, right? How many fields do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? It's step 31 is asking you to apply best fit to the table, and so what you want to do for that is you want to select all the data in the table. So you want to click this little triangle just to the upper left of it's how you selected a table in Excel, how you select the entire worksheet. You want to click the Select All option in the upper left corner. You're going to go to Home. You're going to go to the More button. You're going to choose Field Width, and you're going to click Best Fit, and you can see that it's spread that out, right? Close the faculty table, and because we widen the columns, that is a formatting option. So do we want to save it? We say yes. Okay. All right, step 33. We're moving on to the next part. So if this would be a good place to pause the video if you needed to take a break. I know we're already 30 minutes in, but this is a long lesson. So if you want to take a break, this is a good place to pause the video. And then you can come back. If you close your database, you can open it back up and keep working on it. All right, step 33. Next, you will create a simple query. A query is when you request specific information from the database. So this is super easy. We're going to go to Create, and we're going to use what's called Query Wizard. Wizards are great tools. They allow us to create things very easily. You just click, 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 click. We're going to use the wizard today, but in subsequent lessons, we're actually going to do what's called Query Design. We're going to build some more complex queries. So for simple queries, Query Wizard is perfect. But with Query Design is going to be things that are more complex. So we're going to choose Query Wizard. We're going to do a simple query. We're going to choose Student Table from the drop-down list. Okay, and then we only want to add, we're here at step 35, we're going to add first name. So I just want to add the fields of the query. Remember, a query is questioning the database. So I'm just going to get specific information. So I just want the first name, so I can double click first name, double click last name, and double click amount. So I just want to know the first name and the last name and how much money all the students owe. That's really what I'm looking for. Click next. We're going to leave the default here on this screen. Click next again, and then the name of this query will be student query. Click finish. You'll see the object appears over here on the left. So I now have 3 objects in my database. And then you can see I have the 3 pieces of information. I have 25 records with 3 fields. Okay, this does look like a table, but it's actually a query. And when we turn it around and we look at the backside in future lessons, you'll see that things look very differently. So that was super easy. So we're just going to go ahead and close this object. Moving along, we're now going to create a simple form, right? So step 39 is going to create a simple form. Remember, forms are friendly user interfaces that allow us to enter information into the database. So that table, student table, faculty table, we could open these, right? And we can enter information in this way, but sometimes that can be confusing. And, you know, when you order something on Amazon, when you enter your credit card information, that's a form, right? That's an online form. That's really easy to figure out, right? Box for first name, box for last name. I can fill that out. It's very easy to follow. That is essentially what we're making, is we're making a user interface to the database. Okay, so to create the form, select the student table in the navigation pane by clicking it one time. So I'm going to click the student table, should be highlighted. You don't have to double click to open it. You're going to click it one time. You're going to go to the Create menu and click the giant form button. And what it does is it takes every field and it lays it out in a standard format, and then I can navigate through all those records. See where it says 1 through 25 at the bottom? I'm looking at the first one, which is Carmine and Sandy. Sandy, first name, last name, Carmine. All right, so this, so with a form, you'll see I have 3 ribbons up here: design, arrange, format. I've got some different ribbons. And you'll see over here on the design ribbon, I have actually 3 different views. I have form view, layout view, and then design view. Okay, design view is it's gonna look a little bit different. We'll get into that in a later lesson, but layout view is what we're in right now. Layout view allows us to change the formatting, change how the elements look on the screen, widths, colors. We could add logos, things like that. Form view, which is what we want to switch to, allows us to enter information into the database right now. So I know I'm in form view because those other ribbons just went away. And so step 41 is important. Don't forget to switch to form view. And then we want to add a new record into the database. Okay, so what students do sometimes is they just start typing over information here. If I did that, then you're getting rid of Sandy. She's gone from the database. You want to add a new record. You want to add record number 26, right? So to do that, I'm going to click that arrow with the yellow star at the bottom. That's the new record. I click it. It takes me to record 26 of 26. And now I can type the information in. Whoops. So if I try to type anything more than 6 6s, it won't let me because I restricted that field. I can press tab, last name, Mercill, first name Sarah, state Arizona, my faculty advisor, FAC 666, amount owed 100, and the emission date. Actually, if you want, you get the little date picker over here to the right because you formatted this as a date time. And I'm just going to pick today's date, which happens to be March 24th, so 2020. Whenever you're watching this video, it'll be whatever date you pick. All right. Now I can go to the form. You'll see I don't have a form over here yet. I haven't saved it, right? It's called student table, but that wouldn't make sense. So if I just go File, Save, I can now save this as student form. Click OK. See it changed the name and it added as an object over here. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 objects in my database, and I can close this form. Okay, the last object we're going to create is a report. A report is a output of information. A lot of times you might report a query, print out a query in paper format, or you know, you just want to show different pieces of the database. So reports can be all kinds of pieces of the database in some type of output, usually like a document. So, and you would use the same skills to format a report that you'd use to format a Word document. Okay, step 46, select the faculty table in the navigation pane and then go to the Create tab and choose the Report button. So I'm going to click one time on the faculty table because that becomes the object that is in focus. I go to Create and I click Report. And what it does is the same thing it did in the form. It takes every piece of information, every record, and every field and puts it into a standard layout. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start formatting it. And one thing I want to point out is wherever you see these dotted lines, that represents the edge of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And so what our goal is right now is to get all these pieces inside those dotted lines, or get some of it inside the dotted lines. All right. Step 47, click anywhere in the faculty ID field. So if I click here, that's anywhere in the faculty ID field. And what I want to do is I actually want to delete this field. Okay. So to delete it, I have to select the entire thing. The whole thing is not selected because you can see the field name is not selected. So because I'm in a report, I actually have 4 ribbons now: Design, Arrange, Format, Page Setup. So what I want you to do is click anywhere in the faculty ID field, click the Arrange tab, and choose Select Column. That selects everything. Another way to do it is to click anywhere in the column, right click, and you can choose Select Entire Column. Once you do that, you can press the Delete key, right? Okay, and that gets rid of it. I'm going to do a Control Z. Sometimes Control Z does work. We're doing some formatting. This is what happens if you don't select the whole column. I just have this piece selected and I press Delete. Do you see how you get this big white space here? If you have the big white space, it means you didn't do it correctly, because I still have the field name at the top. Control Z. You want to make sure that you select the entire column and then press Delete. Okay, and you can already see it move some stuff over. I want to delete the campus field using the same steps. So I can click on Campus, right click, select Entire Column, Delete. Okay. Next, you will modify the widths of some of the fields. To do this, you need access to the property sheet. Go to the Design ribbon and click on the property sheet. So this opens up another panel. It can look a little overwhelming. It's okay. Don't have to be overwhelmed. And to give myself a little bit of real estate, I can actually hide this navigation pane over here on the left by clicking this double chevron, so I have a little bit more room. All right, so I want to click anywhere in the last name field and then click the width property. So sometimes you don't have to select everything. In this case, because I'm just changing the width, I don't have to select everything. It's going to change the width of everything because I'm inside this field. So I'm going to go over here to the property panel. I'm going to click the word width, and then you'll see the numbers highlighted. That's easier than just selecting it. Just click on the word width, and then I'm just going to type in a number 1. Right? Click anywhere last name field, probably should change the width of the first name to 1. So I click anywhere in first name, click on width, 1, right? All right, look at that. Everything is now inside the dotted line. It looks so much better. I can close my property sheet, and if I scroll down, I can even see I've got stuff going on. Now, if I scroll down, I can see I do have a page number, and it's outside the border. So what I can do is, we're right here. What do I want to do? Scroll to the bottom and select the page number, control, and delete it. So I can click on that. That's a control. I select it. I press delete. Boom. That's easy. Now everything fits within that dotted line. All right. Go to save the report. Go to File, Save. And this time it's going to be called faculty report. Click OK. I'm going to open up my navigation pane so I can see that again. And there you go. There's that faculty report. Close the report. You should have 5 objects in the database. I have a picture of it right over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the last thing you're going to do is turn it in. This step is more important than anything else. Once you get ready to turn it in, you must exit the database. That means you must click this X in the upper right corner. If you leave your database open and you try to turn it into Canvas, you won't be able to turn anything in. The file that gets submitted is what's called a record locking file, and there's no information stored in it. So the last thing you need to do when you complete the assignment is to exit out of Access. And so I'm going to click this X, and that actually closes the entire file. I'm going to go ahead and maximize this in the window, and now I'm ready to turn it into Canvas. Okay, so video, we're just at the 40-minute mark. If you made it all the way, that's awesome. Even if you took a break, you're still awesome. Go ahead and complete the assignment and turn it in. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to let your instructor know. Thank you.